They weren't supposed to see the eclipse. July 29th, 1878, Denver, Colorado. Thousands of people watched the sun disappear in the middle of the day. And when total darkness fell on a summer afternoon, complete, absolute darkness where the sun should have been, mass panic erupted. People screamed, fainted, prayed in the streets. Some thought it was the end of the world. And what happened in those 4 minutes of totality changed some of them forever. Because when the darkness came, people claimed they saw things that shouldn't have been there. This happened in July 1878 in Denver, Colorado Territory, not yet a state, still frontier country, population around 35,000, mix of miners, ranchers, settlers, and opportunists who'd come west for gold and land. Denver sat at 5,280 feet elevation, the mile-high city, right in the path of totality for the first major solar eclipse to cross the American West in decades. Everything felt completely normal at first. It was a Monday, hot summer day, clear blue Colorado sky. Astronomers had been advertising the eclipse for months. Newspapers ran diagrams explaining what would happen. Scientists from back east had traveled to Denver specifically to observe it. But most people in Denver, they'd never seen a total solar eclipse before. They didn't know what to expect. The weather was perfect, not a cloud in the sky. People had gathered in the streets, on rooftops, in town squares. They'd come to witness something extraordinary. What they got was terror. Then something small happened. Around mid-afternoon, the moon began its transit across the sun, a tiny dark bite taken out of the solar disk. At first, people barely noticed. The day stayed bright, normal, hot. They told themselves this was it, just a little shadow, nothing dramatic. But it kept growing, and the light started changing. That's when they noticed the pattern. Every few minutes, the world got dimmer, not like sunset, not like clouds passing over, different. The shadows became sharper, unnaturally defined. Colors started draining from everything. The vibrant blue sky turned pale, sickly. The temperature dropped, fast. People who'd been sweating in the July heat suddenly felt cold. Animals started acting strange. Horses in the streets became agitated. Chickens that had been pecking in yards suddenly rushed back to their coops. Dogs howled. Birds stopped singing. Complete silence except for human voices. That's when people stopped feeling comfortable. You could feel the wrongness in the air. The pressure changed like before a storm, but the sky was still clear. Something smelled electric, metallic, like the air after lightning strikes. They tried to explain it away. The astronomers on hand were trying to reassure people, telling them this was normal, expected, nothing to fear. Scientific journals had published articles explaining the phenomenon. People even laughed nervously, reminded each other this was natural, celestial mechanics, nothing supernatural. But deep down, something felt wrong. Your body knew before your mind did. Because humans are wired to expect the sun, to trust that light equals safety, darkness equals danger. And the sun was disappearing in the middle of the afternoon. Then totality hit. The last sliver of sun vanished, and darkness fell. Complete darkness. Not twilight, not dusk, the black of midnight in the middle of the day. The temperature plummeted 28 degrees in less than 4 minutes. Stars appeared. Venus blazed in the western sky. The corona, the sun's outer atmosphere, became visible as a ghostly white halo around the black disk where the sun had been. And people lost their minds. Screaming erupted across Denver. Women fainted, men dropped to their knees in prayer. Some ran for their homes, others stood frozen, staring at the impossible sky. Churches filled instantly, people begging for salvation, because they thought this was it, the end of the world. The Bible spoke of the sun being darkened before the end times, and here it was, happening. But here's what made this more than just mass panic. What people reported seeing during those 4 minutes. Multiple witnesses, interviewed separately by newspapers in the days following, described the same things. Shapes in the darkness, movement at the edge of vision. One woman, Sarah Mitchell, told the Rocky Mountain News, "I saw figures moving in the darkness, tall, between the buildings. When I tried to look directly at them, they weren't there, but in my peripheral vision, they were watching us." A rancher named Thomas Blackwell reported, "My horses broke their hitching posts and ran. In the darkness, I heard singing, or something like singing. No words I recognized, coming from nowhere and everywhere." Multiple people reported feeling watched during totality, not each other, by something else, something in the darkness that came with the shadow. Dr. Samuel Langley, one of the prominent astronomers who traveled to Denver specifically to observe it, documented something unusual in his official report. His instruments recorded unexplained electromagnetic fluctuations during totality, compass needles spinning erratically, temperature readings that didn't match expected models, and something he only mentioned in his personal journal, discovered years later. The animal's response suggests an awareness beyond mere response to darkness. They detected something we could not measure. The darkness lasted exactly 4 minutes and 22 seconds. Then the sun re-emerged, a diamond ring of light as the first rays broke through. The world flooded with daylight again. Color returned, temperature rose. Birds started singing again, and the panic slowly subsided. People looked at each other, embarrassed, confused, trying to rationalize what they'd just experienced. The astronomers celebrated. Their observations were successful. They documented a major celestial event. But the people of Denver? Some of them were changed. In the weeks following the eclipse, Denver newspapers documented something strange, a spike in unusual reports. People claiming to see shadowy figures at dusk, hearing that strange singing at night, feelings of being watched when alone, livestock behaving strangely, refusing to go outside at certain times. The local asylum reported increased admissions, several people who'd been in the streets during totality now claiming they couldn't shake the feeling that something came through during the darkness. One man, never identified by name, was found wandering the outskirts of Denver 3 days after the eclipse, completely disoriented. He kept repeating, "It saw me. When the sun went away, it saw me." He was institutionalized, never recovered. Scientists have studied eclipse behavior for a century since then. They've documented the biological responses, the psychological effects, verified phenomena during totality, temperature drops of 20 to 30 degrees, animals exhibiting nocturnal behavior, human pupils dilating, affecting perception, atmospheric pressure changes, documented cases of syncope or fainting from stress, mass psychological contagion in large crowds. But the 1878 Denver eclipse was different because of the scale. 35,000 people experiencing totality simultaneously, most having never witnessed it before. No cultural preparation, no scientific literacy to provide context, just raw primal fear response to the sun disappearing. There's a psychological phenomenon called eclipse blindness. Not physical blindness from looking at the sun, though that happened too. Mental blindness, a cognitive break. When reality violates our most fundamental assumptions like the sun will be there, the brain can fracture, just a little. And in that fracture, we see things. Not necessarily things that are there, but maybe things we normally filter out. The darkness provides a canvas, and our terrified minds paint on it. Or maybe something else. There's a reason cultures throughout history feared eclipses. Ancient Chinese believed a dragon was devouring the sun. Viking mythology spoke of wolves chasing and catching the sun. Many cultures had rituals to protect against eclipses, to drive away the darkness. Why? Because maybe they knew something. Maybe in that brief window when the natural order breaks, when day becomes night in seconds, maybe something notices. Maybe something looks back. The 1878 eclipse crossed the entire United States, from Montana to Texas, but Denver had the highest concentration of witnesses, and Denver had the most documented reports of strangeness. The other cities along the path, people were frightened, sure, but not to the same degree. Why Denver? Some researchers point to the altitude, the thinner atmosphere, more direct exposure to whatever cosmic radiation accompanies totality. Others note Denver's proximity to indigenous sacred sites, areas the Ute and Arapaho people considered spiritually significant. One Ute elder, speaking to an anthropologist years later, said, "Your people were foolish to watch the sun die. Some things are not meant to be witnessed." Here's what we know for certain. Documented facts. July 29, 1878, total solar eclipse crossed